to Impossible Live. Thanks for popping in. If you're joining us live or for replays, or somebody just shared a link, or you just happen to notice that we were going live, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. I have totally, mm, I've been relaxing and chilling a little bit. And today kind of feels like Christmas Eve because the Cheryl Janeen is here. And I can only explain it through the lens that I think we met a while ago in a group that Susan McVeigh had. And that group Susan McVeigh had, I have to really be thankful from a universal pillars perspective. I met Cheryl Janeen. I met Exquisite Eve. I met Dr. Linda Eno, besides hanging out in Susan's great group. But without further ado, and even before we get into why the title is here, I just want to introduce you to the most amazing intuitive success launch and personal branding strategist that I have had the pleasure of meeting. I'm so grateful she is in my universe. Please keep introducing yourself behind the scenes so we can say hi and connect. And let's meet wonderful Cheryl.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Mel. Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been a while since, we were supposed to get on and do this. I'm just excited to be here and, of course, be in your presence as well. Thank you.
So tell us about beautiful you.
Me? Okay. Well, for starters, I grew up in New York um, until I was about 23 or something. I moved to Ohio. And I worked as a medical professional for some years in the hospital. So actually, after that ended, is when I started to get into entrepreneurship. And I always tell people that it wasn't me wanting to start a business at first. It was just me trying to make some money. I had to feed my kid. I was a single mom. I'm still a single mom. So I just had to make something work and started with internet marketing and dabbled in that a lot, learned so much myself. And then I evolved into the branding space from there, where I was doing websites and graphics, just the visual side of branding. And so now I'm doing more personal branding because I'm helping people with connecting the dots of their brand and just kind of bringing out that soul language and that great message that they're willing to share and they want to get across to their audiences and pulling it all together so that everything makes sense. And so here we are now. We're doing launches and we're scaling with events, and it's just an amazing space. And once you can embrace your soul language and all that great stuff, you'll be so aligned with what it is that you're supposed to do. So this is where we are. That's what I do.
I absolutely love that. Hi, Clarine. Hi, Lena. Welcome and thank you for popping in to join us. What I love about hanging out with amazing Cheryl is that soul languages was something that I think I always dreamed of, but I didn't learn how to speak mine
Mhm.
until Cheryl and I started really hanging out together on a higher level. You know that time in your life when things are a little clogged. I was exploring mental fitness, and this year I've been exploring trust and getting certified in it. But things get clogged from a branding perspective. You feel
Mhm.
sometimes like you can feel like you're on a locomotive. You're supposed to be going at a faster speed. One of the things that I love is that Cheryl has helped me slow down to an
Yeah.
incredible pace
Yeah.
and slow down the process and to discover. And I think one of the things about the today's topic, besides the part about soul languages,
Mhm.
learning ours, refining ours, deciding when to share ours. Where do we start, Cheryl?
For me, I feel like even just from a personal branding perspective, personal. It's all personal. And so I say we start at the beginning and go back to where we find the most pleasure.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. When I was a kid, I told you I grew up in New York, and so when I lost my mother, I had to deal with my mother's death um, at 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. And my aunt, her sister, would take me to therapy, but I didn't get anything from the therapy. Like me sitting in front of somebody and expressing myself, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So I found different outlets. I went to the Harlem School of the Arts to take piano lessons. I would go for creative writing classes on the weekends. I would sit in my room and write poetry and songs. And I would even pick up a pencil and start drawing. And I didn't even know if I could draw. And I discovered that I could. And so those are ways that I expressed myself. So when we get back to things that are within us and where our soul is leading us, that's where it all starts. What are the things that bring you the most pleasure?
Mm.
Ask yourself that. You got to ask yourself
Mm.
that. Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love that because I think one of the things in the process of working on brands, people keep, and I had a conversation this morning with an accountability partner who was talking about, people encourage us to approach branding from a pain point perspective
Mm-hmm.
of identifying who it is that we're speaking to, of
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what their language is, what their lingo is,
Yeah.
and Marcia is saying it really well, that grief and therapy are not one size fits all. Neither is life and language and communications. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the hard part. We don't, we're not necessarily taught to start within,
Right.
start from, I always would say as an introvert, that, it's kind of like being in a cave sometime or in a turtle shell and trying to figure out which words you want to use on which specific day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm delighted Cheryl is here today because I've spent a week at a little bit over a week basically floating in pools and swimming, and the water just brings me a tremendous sense of peace. It really helped me focus, kind of dial in, but in the process I realized all of the layers of deconditioning
Mm.
that are sometimes preventing us from starting a deep dive and starting a deep dive without a lot of support. And Clarine's mentioning, you kind of run the risk of not being our authentic selves. But I think in the conditioning, especially as women in business, and I want to thank the gentlemen who pop in all the time for keeping it real in our inclusive world. But
Mm-hmm.
the alignment of us personally, spiritually, professionally, and emotionally, it doesn't happen easy.
It doesn't.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it sure doesn't. And I think if we can get back to um, just the things that we can do as adults and as professionals um, to get more aligned, we'll find exactly what we need to say when we need to say it and how we can convey it to make the impact that we want to make in the world. Whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, all those different things, it helps. It helps to really be still. I know you mentioned that first, how I help you slow down. And it's like, that's what we have to do sometimes. We have to slow down because we'll miss it. We'll miss all the details that we need to see. And something else that Mel, you talk about is dreaming in color. And you weren't doing that before, but you are doing that now. And so those are the things that we need to see for ourselves. And we will absolutely miss every bit of that if we're just moving at a pace that doesn't really serve us well. We have to be aligned, but we also have to know when to be still so we can get the clarity we need so that the needle continues to move forward. So yeah.
I want to thank you for that because I think if I hadn't learned to slow down,
Mm-hmm.
kind of to locate what I'm now calling switches for sustainable energy,
Mm-hmm.
it only happens if we replenish. It only happens if we repair. It only happens if we recover. Hey, Kimberly, welcome. And Clarine saying it. Alignment, definitely an ongoing journey.
Yes.
And we're not necessarily sure if there are others on that alignment train with us who accompanies us on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And another word I love, you help me locate realignment. And it,
We are constantly being realigned. I have been in programs before, and if I feel my soul just moving, I have to move with it. And I've learned to do that. And I think that we need to be just pay attention more so we can be self-aware of those types of things that happen, because sometimes you can't stay where you are as long as you planned. Your soul will move and then you have to follow it if you want to stay aligned. So yeah, that's how it works.
I I think the thing too is the realignment, that is a constant process. It's an ongoing transformation.
It
It's
is.
something, that we sometimes are reaching for because you have to reach deep. You need some support along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You run out of energy, you run out of resources, you run out of space sometime to give yourself permission.
Right.
And the permission to just be.
Just
One of the most beautiful gifts I ever received from Cheryl. The reminder that I give it as a gift
mm-hmm.
and learning to receive it, big part of tapping into her soul. I also love you did an amazing newsletter on the day that I picked this topic that I had not read.
That was so interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Roshni, welcome and thanks for popping in.
Yes. Exploring our soul language. Yeah. Getting back to what fuels and feeds our soul is so important. Like I told you, Mel, before, like, you didn't know I managed a hip hop artist. A lot of people don't know that I do that. And I just have one artist. And it's because I chose him, because he has so much soul in his music that it moves me. It speaks to my soul. If it wasn't like that, I would not even deal with him. So, what feeds our soul, what fuels our soul, what is speaking to our soul, we have to be more aware of those types of things. That's how you know when you're in alignment. That's how you know the language that you're speaking, what's speaking to you.
I
Yeah.
think sometimes too, we're taught though to look for the language that speaks to others, and
Yeah.
we miss that the conversation, the conversation with ourselves that almost needs to be ongoing. I remember years ago um, being introduced to a book called Verbal Judo. That reminded there are at least three of us on each side of a conversation.
Mm,
The person who's present talking, and now knowing the future, and if the author would update it, I'm sure he would say there might be more. There's the you who's speaking, there's the you who's listening, and there's the person who's about to speak and trying to channel whether they're speaking from their heart,
yeah.
they're speaking from their core. And I love that we're exploring it, not just through a mental fitness lens or an emotional intelligence lens. And I'm going to laugh at the theater voice today to remind you to stay hydrated,
Yes, always.
And it's so easy. I was saying to Cheryl, when you're floating around and it's 90 degrees, it's easy to drink tons of water. And when
Mm-hmm.
we come home to the 50 degrees, not so encouraging.
Right, not
If
so
you
easy.
were to help us navigate somebody who's not an explorer, like they're really feel like they're linear, where
Mm.
should they start? I love that face. I love that face. Sorry to mean to
Well,
such a
yes,
hard Cheryl question.
I am making that face because I thought about, well, when I was doing my reflections the other day, I was thinking about my life. And I'm like, nothing in my life is ever linear. It's just, it never goes the way I planned it to go. It's just, so I'm just kind of open to whatever because I know this about me. Like I know the patterns. So if we pay attention to the patterns, sometimes we have unhealthy patterns. Sometimes we have patterns that we really aren't in control of. But it's like what we are in control of, we need to assess that and see how can we change these unhealthy patterns into patterns that or habits that serve us better. Um, so yeah, I mean, thinking that it's going to be linear, I think is the first issue because it hardly ever is. But being open to receive what is going to happen or what is going to unfold is something that we all need to do because from an intuitive perspective, it's like we all have intuition. Some have it deeper than others as far as being aware of what the intuition is and what it's saying to you and what you're downloading. But being open to all of it and being open to receive, I think, is where it all starts. You have to allow. I know you spoke about giving ourselves permission. Like we have to allow it. That's the first step. Yeah.
Well, I truly thank you there. And I know as you're saying about the linear stuff, and I laugh all the time about it because our human design friends and coaches and collaborators have helped me understand I have two tracks running here. One is team intuition,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is team logic. And I laugh that the two aren't aligned. I have to tap into my intuition, or team logic never has a chance. And that's from the strategy girl. To really be able to kind of check in. I think besides the being personally aware or internally aware, being environmentally aware of whatever it is that I sense, and now allowing the time and space for that to slow down. I laugh when onboarding clients. Somebody will ask me, "Are you still there?" And in the old days, Team Logic was writing notes as fast and furious as you possibly can. Now I'm so grateful that so much of what we do is virtual and online. You can put down the pen, you can keep the deep and active listener, you can write a word to like trigger something. But I think the linear side was trained from the school of business where you have to have an elevator pitch. You need
Right.
to have a succinct, clear marketing message. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the and I love it. The LinkedIn coaches who say your headline needs to speak. I laughed. I was on a LinkedIn video with someone earlier, and I laughed. I said, "Wow, thank you to all the coaches. Those first 40 characters finally say what Mel would say
Mm-hmm.
in the soul language of my ideal future client or
Right.
collaborator." And I
Right.
think that's the hard part is switching the linear off. This should be like a program. This should be lined up. I should have all the answers. I should be the expert.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the wonderful gifts you also gave me is a reminder that as much as we know about a specific industry, as much as I know about the events industry or how to host a live or a virtual event or how to help somebody support it as an attendee, as a sponsor, as a host, as a presenter, as a volunteer, we just need to know the language a little bit better than the person we're trying to have the conversation with.
Mm-hmm.
So no one gets lost.
That's
And
true.
it really does become an exploration, or as you help me understand, I love having chemistry sessions. Is it the right fit? Um, and does it feel like there's a script? You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the scripts too much. I think some things we're just not in control of, and I feel like naturally we want to be in control all the time for some stuff, and it's like no, we're not. The marketplace is constantly changing, so something I call brand aerobics is like something that we kind of have to do. We have to adapt. We have to be agile. We have to be more flexible and embrace that because things are constantly changing. So we're not always going to be in control of that, but we can be in control of how we speak and what we say and what we're receiving from others as far as how they're speaking to us. Because if we look at like from a marketing perspective, if we're looking at what people are saying, the people that we desire to work with, and we're speaking that language back to them, that's the only way they're going to really understand us. So it's really not about it's not so much about um, us being in control of our messaging in a certain way, but how can I get this across to my targeted market in a way that they understand? So that piece it kind of takes us out of it, and we have to make it so that they understand it more so than us being in control and having this direct voice, but still having some type of grip on how we're speaking from our soul too. So it's like all these different components, but it can really be simplified into something really beautiful, if we're speaking from our soul. So
mm. I love your brand aerobics, and I think part of having spent a vacation surrounded and in the water, the
mhm.
reminder of the flexibility part,
Yes.
because I think sometimes that's what happens. We lose in recent conversations, been having discussions with people about pain points,
Mm-hmm.
and really thankful to Judy Fox. Judy with an I. If anyone's not following her on LinkedIn, follow this brilliant woman who suggested we look for the tickle points, which really aligns more with the soul language,
Mm-hmm.
tapping into what a potential ideal future client or collaborator wants to hear or needs to hear in a
Mm-hmm.
way that they understand it, that you're here to help.
Right. Yeah. I think if we look at intuitive branding, intuitive marketing, it's about trusting ourselves more, trusting our instincts. I know Mel, you're big on trust, so you know exactly what what that's about. That whole trust factor, it has different levels to it, but it's really about trusting ourselves and what we're conceptualizing. Um, because if we're not in that space, then how can we emotionally connect? How can we peel back the layers so that we are revealing our soul language and we're getting our message across in that way? Traditional marketing is like, okay, this is the benefits, these are the features, and it's more direct, but we're bridging that emotional connection and making people feel something. That's how you are getting their attention. That's how you're attracting them. That's how you're getting them into your world. So I think we need to look at that more as far as our language is concerned. Is like the resonance part. A lot of times
Mm.
it's missing. A lot of times it's missing.
I think so too. In a conversation recently about artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and I really appreciate all the people who are sharing their tremendous insights about ways they use it. what
Mhm.
they use it for, how it helps them. Hi, Cassandra. Thanks so much for popping in. I believe sometimes what's happening is that our humanity is getting lost. The emotions are getting lost. There's so much happening underneath the surface that it kind of feels like it gets stuck. You know, my brother and I gently used to talk to each other years ago about helping each other stay off the ledge. There was an ability to be able to offload an intense amount of emotions in a very short period of time
Mhm.
without looking for a response, needing to be heard, needing to feel seen, needing to feel like you had a spot or a place. And I love what you just said about the resonance of it. I think also what he really helps me understand as we're expressing intense amount of emotions, we're with someone who appreciates, loves, and respects us with clarity. And I
Mhm.
think that's a big part of the communication part. We may use a word, and I love it. Shel Shapiro had a fabulous high vibes conversation, I think about a month ago. Um, and it was stellar about discernment. And I was so delighted to pop in. And one of her guests said, in my culture, I think they lived in the Netherlands, and she says, we don't have a word for discernment. So trying to figure out, was the word intuition? Was it some sort of judgment? Is it presence? Is it acknowledgement? Is it sensitivity? So I think sometimes using different words as part of the language, the reminder to, as you help me do, distill it, break it down. Because somebody I adored years ago in financial services said marketing's like snake oil. And I used to always laugh whenever she would say it, because I was co hosting an event. She's there to network with people. There are 10 other people, 8 times out of 10 in her industry at the event. And she said, marketing's like snake oil, and no one wants to buy the snake. I started cracking up. I love how she said it
Yeah.
so simply.
I like how you talk about breaking it down, because if I feel like it's too complicated, I'm just not. If I have to read it 3 times to try to understand what you're saying, that's a problem for me. I need you to simplify this. I need you to use words. It can be colorful words, but it has to make sense in my mind. And so that's why I'm always like, well, it's not about really dumbing it down, but it's just actually using words, everyday words that we use, because it's like, you know, the more educated person might use a different tone. Their language is different. And so it's like trying to navigate through what they're actually trying to say is harder than maybe the average person who can just speak to you like they're speaking to a friend.
Mm.
I've seen that happen. I've had clients who have had that issue. So,
I think you remind it is complex, even if it's a brain thing. And I love
yeah.
puzzles and games, and it took me years to like add that to a bio now. And
Mhm.
it just means if the person on the other end is reading it is also interested in exploring or playing full out, there's an opportunity for us to create that space, or
Yeah,
a willingness, hopefully, because it can't always be fun. It's not always light. It's not always an easy lift. But I believe underneath you helping me locate the keys to my soul language and learning ways to share it, the keys have to do with simplicity and the reminder there's no master key.
exactly.
Sooner or later, we're going to be in a room and hope that our people are there. We'll hope they're sitting in adjacent seats. We'll hope to be behind them on the entrance, the exit, the buffet line, the line for a nature break.
Mm.
To walk out on a balcony and follow the sun Or last night we were coming home watching the full moon and a planet, as if the planet was leading the moon home, and I was laughing. It was the most entertaining light show to have a couple of days ago. And I said, wow, I wouldn't have had the space to appreciate this view before leaving for vacation. Hey,
Hmm.
Ronnie, welcome and thank you for popping in. On the other hand, anybody who's listening, if you've got a question, Cheryl help you break it down in a way, in a language I've never quite seen before. And I'm delighted to hear from others on the other end that they're loving this conversation. Someone was saying to me, I'm not sure on Impossible Live what y'all will talk about next. And I hope we continue that trend this fall. But I can't tell you how happy I am to have the amazing Cheryl here. Cheryl, you didn't mention deep breathing.
Deep breathing.
I'm
Yes.
teasing. You mentioned clarity. You mentioned
Hydration.
Mhm.
Yep, there you go. There you go.
You mentioned energy. This will remind you really, I spent a week in water and air conditioning. And
Mhm.
I think the thing that I love that you did mention in your newsletter, and you mentioned it before, and maybe it's in the recording that you have on your massive magnetism, on your language.
Mhm.
You mentioned a clear lens. Where does that part come in, like the vision part, to kind of tie this all together? Because for some, in case somebody's catching it on a replay and they don't have a chance to pop in for a question.
Ooh, that clear lens. Oh, I'm telling you, that clear lens. I don't think it's something that happens overnight. At least it never has for me, um, in pretty much anything. So I think it's something that you have to take time and dissect, just what is happening, what you need the clarity on first of all, and how you going to intuitively get to that space where you can get the downloads. I know we have downloads a lot. Me and you both, Mel. We get the downloads, when we're in just certain spaces in our sacred space. We'll get it. But I don't think the clear lens is something that, um, you can say, well, I need clarity on this, and you're gonna get it tomorrow. I think timing is a thing. You know, we're not in control of that, so it's like in the right time, that's when you'll get it. And but you have to be aware, you have to pay attention. Like I said, if you're moving too much, you probably will miss it. And so we have to slow down to really get what we need a lot of times. And like Mel, she just took a vacation. Like we need to take a break sometimes and recharge. You know, sometimes that's how to come into play, and that's how you'll get it. um but yeah, if you're constantly doing, I don't know that you'll get the clarity that you need that way. I always say slow down. I don't, like I said, I don't like complicated things. I like things to be really simple. But I notice when I'm moving at a slower pace, I can actually get what I need. So that's just my experience with it.
Well, you'd be really proud of me. I came back with a priority list
Yeah.
with four things. They
Mm.
interconnect, they're not in order of most
Hmm.
importance,
Hmm.
they're acknowledging the need for lots of support.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing underneath is the reminder we're in a world where there's so much heaviness sometimes, with so
Right.
much grief, that I promised myself that I would continue listening to music like we did on vacation. Every time it was time to do something complicated, there was a fabulous song in the background.
Hmm.
the music kind of inspired you or helped others show up to help somebody else to get something done.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a deal with myself 3 hours of music a day. Today, I've already listened to about 2 hours. I've discovered four new artists, and I think I decided to use the movement to uh, keep on moving
Yeah, I love
and
that.
with permission to stop. When I was
Mm-hmm.
younger, keep on moving, don't stop now was the line.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
to keep on moving in whatever the direction is,
Mm-hmm.
including spaces for pause, deep breaths, check ins, and to change the glasses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was interesting too because this is the first time I didn't have a chance over that beautiful water to enjoy the wave runner or the sea dew. I miss looking at my sea turtles, but I think this was a time of looking at the sky. I've
Yeah.
been talking a lot to people. Hey, Nastasha, how are you? About vision. And I was reminded when slowing down, focus on these. Cheryl, how can amazing people find you? Where can they find you? What are ways that we can help you introduce you?
They can find me right on LinkedIn. That's my playground. I'm also on Instagram and everywhere else, but I'm mostly on LinkedIn. So send me a DM. I'm always open to connect. And if you have any questions, let me know that too.
And you have a couple of amazing new things that I noticed are on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Any news you want to share? Or you want us we can hang in there, especially if it's new and you're just like, okay, okay, just wait, keep an eye.
Yeah, keep an eye because I do have some audio events coming out. I have the magazine that I'm launching in January. I also have a LinkedIn Live that I'm going to be doing starting next week. So I got a few things coming, a few new things. So exciting. And another summit too. So I'm working.
A LinkedIn Live, any days of the week we can save?
Tuesdays.
Okay,
Yeah. Tuesdays.
congratulations.
Thank you.
As
So it's
we're wrapping up your soul languages, is there a soul language that you think is universal?
that I think is universal. Mm, I don't know. I think that we can all take those steps to just kind of like attach ourselves to our higher self, just go to that next level of where our higher self is and really just kind of see who our tribe is and just close our eyes and be able to ask what it is that they want from us
Mm,
so we can kind of have an idea of what we should be speaking to them. I think we all have a tribe. I do think that. I think we all have, just that group of people, that group of soul, those group of souls that really want more of us, but we have to be in our higher self to access that and have them access us.
I love that. Love that. Because nowhere in this intuitive marketing and nowhere in Cheryl's intuitive success did we mention ideal client avatars. So the
Right.
suggestion, and I really appreciate it as Cheryl's helping, because I mean, I had been in marketing and sales support and operations for years. Just a reminder, simplify it. slow it down, even when there is a theme to it. I love what you're saying about really dialing in and really allowing more time to be present when someone is speaking a
Mm-hmm.
soul language to us. Speaking with people who are sometimes every I allow 20 minutes for virtual calls, and my next virtual call is in 5 minutes. So, I laugh because you may have a 20-minute call and you wish it was 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
maybe part of wrapping up that call is setting up the time for the next call or finding creating a space to reconnect and maybe explore the synergy, if not the dialect of the language that we're speaking to each other.
Mm. I love that. I
Uh,
love that. Yeah. Mr. Ashley saying, determine your tribe. Yeah, it does. It does. And when you notice when you connect with people, sometimes that connection is so divine. Like Mel says, sometimes it's 20 minutes, but you wish it was 2 hours because you know that it's a divine connection. I've had those calls and you meet the most wonderful people, and it's like your souls are speaking to each other. So it's like, you will find your tribe. That's how you know who your people are. We didn't get too deep into like the avatar, like you said, Mel, but yeah, it's like it's on a deeper level. It's really going to a deeper level, not just pain points, but motivate. What's going to motivate them? What's currently motivating them to need what you have, not just pain points. We have to go deeper. We have to understand how to go deeper.
I so appreciate you saying that, especially as I'm looking at the edits of our strategies masterclass, and thank you and Roshni for having been there. It was it was about strategies, but really was about how to monetize with transparency. Because really you're showing up sometimes and there's another business owner, there's another entrepreneur, there's another organization at the end, whether they're for profit or not for profit.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's showing up with some sort of goal and some dream of what I have one around here somewhere. We had money roses as part of our displays because it was the only visual that I could think of to help people think about trying to generate revenue in a
Mm-hmm.
way that didn't seem painful, that wasn't icky. And I really appreciate it because I'm so not the sales trainer,
Mm-hmm.
although helping others open doors is part of my soul language, whether this introvert feels like opening a door for herself that day or not. And I think that's the reminder that we understand how hard it is sometimes to open that door.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Yeah, we don't always have to be prepared for everything either. We can just allow it to just happen. I mean, I think those are like the best moments I've had with people, is just allowing the conversation to happen, the connection to happen. Just whatever needs to unfold in that moment, just allow it. That's it.
And
Best
let
time.
it blossom. Hey,
Yes,
Karen, thanks so much for popping in.
let it blossom. I love that.
Hey, Karen, love that this was refreshing. Let us know what Cheryl is definitely, truly HM.
Thank you. You are too. You know that.
I was reminded today as you preparing for today and the reminder to like really focus of a wonderful human design coach who taught me the concept of Hara, which I loved it because I was thinking of it from your perspective of a clear lens. She taught us Hara, and Anna, if you're around, time to reconnect. But Alana taught us the concept of Hara to really focus our eye or our gaze kind of forward, almost like centering it, not on a bullseye, but
Mhm.
in kind of a really deep breathing, relax and ease in kind of way. And found it really helpful. She had an amazing visual for us to focus in on. And now when I do that, I can see that beautiful visual. So thank you for leaving us with your gems and for giving us a sample of your brilliance and the wonder that is you. So
Mhm.
grateful for you in our universe.
Thank you as well. Appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you. Don't worry, y'all. Cheryl will be back. We finally have her with us. We'll get her to come back and share her, and not with us. She's always with us behind the scenes, strengthening wings. But truly, my honor to spend some time with you today.
Likewise, Mel. Always a pleasure.
Thank you all for joining us today. Stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, and please stay in touch. Take
Mhm.
great care. Have a magnificent day filled with opportunities and possibilities. Until we see you again, be well.